It is officially the first solo podcast of the Figuring It Out podcast. I've had, probably 10 to 20 people that I really respect who are very successful tell me that it's great to have a podcast and interview all these people, but at the end of the day, they want to know the host. And I've been putting this podcast off for a long time. I've always wanted to use my podcast as a tool to meet other people, get them to open up in a way that they probably wouldn't on a phone call or if we were to meet for coffee, and to kind of share with everyone out there that, you know, a lot of these big people we see, people that look successful, people that seem to have these unobtainable lives, they're human and figuring it out just like we are. And, all year, I think I've shown a lot of what we're doing in business. Some of you that follow me in my personal life know that I've really enjoyed dog ownership this year and being able to travel with my dog and now fiance. I got engaged. That was a huge deal. A lot of mental work to get to the point where I was ready to do that. And Katie, shout out to you for waiting as long as you did. You committed to me long before I committed to you. And I'm very excited to kind of know we're going to do this together. So for everyone watching, this episode's goal today is to share with you all what I've been figuring out. I'm 27 years old. I've been an entrepreneur for 3 years. I've freelanced for probably a total of 6 because I wouldn't call those first few years being a business owner. And man, it's been overwhelming. I started doing my own social media company in the end of 2020 because I just kind of felt like the traditional college system had failed me. I went to school from 2016 to 2020. I had joined a fraternity. It was everything you hear about in the movies and a little bit worse. And we were the last generation that kind of got the real fraternity life of having these huge fundraisers, having these crazy parties, and also having this private network of people you get connected to. And that was really the best benefit I had of going to college. And I even worked for my university until I got started in social media. But I started this company really out of fear and a desire to control my own income and to control my own opportunities. Because when I went to start my company, there were 6 businesses I wanted to work for. I took a college class where you had to write out the companies you want to work for. And when COVID hit, they all went under. And what it taught me was that change is going to keep happening very quickly, especially when you work in something like internet marketing. We're one step behind the leading industry online of innovation, if you know what I'm saying. So we have to be ready to change very quickly. And I had a lot of mentors in high school and college. It was my dad and a lot of his friends who were all programmers who had very high income jobs, but they weren't business owners. And they were very adamant of, you've got to keep up with technology. You've got to know how things are changing. But I started listening year over year that they weren't paying attention to the trends of business, and that, all of their coworkers who used to be in America were now their coworkers in India. And it was cheaper to hire 13 people in India than it was one person in America. And I saw this happening with American jobs. I was coming out of college, and for a 3 to 6 month period, I was DoorDashing thinking, I'm going to find a job at this company. I'm going to find a job somewhere that's going to support me. And it didn't make sense, right? I'm American, wanting another American to give me work. And it's cheaper to find labor like mine in another country. It's much easier to find someone with less qualifications and grind them more, because at the end of the day, that's going to make the business owner more money. And I felt like I had to do something creative. I had to provide a level of value that wasn't just hours I put in or labor I put in. I wanted it to be something truly creative, to truly create value. And I think a lot of times that happens by finding amazing companies and pairing them with tools to find more customers that they just haven't found yet. At least for me, that's what I felt like I wanted to figure out. And, I did it for a year, and it was scary. I took really big risks to start this company emotionally. I mean, I was broke as a joke. So if I want to act like there was a financial risk, there wasn't. Like I was DoorDashing when I started this. Katie, my girlfriend at the time, was reselling clothing online. It wasn't like we walked away from a fancy lifestyle, I'll put it that way. But I wanted to make sure that as I stepped into this new path of, not finishing college, upsetting my parents and what they wanted of me, and kind of taking a leap of faith, because, let's be honest, I had no proof. There was nothing there. There was no evidence that this was going to work. I basically, if any of you watch this podcast, I basically had to fully remove myself from the even potential of wasting my time with college, because there's a famous Christian Guzman video. And for those of you that don't know Christian, he's built the largest gym in the US. He had one of the largest retail sporting clothing brands. There's a clip of his dad saying that, if Christian hadn't, ran with that fire that he once saw in his eyes, he thinks the fire would have burned out. And I had that feeling. I remember I put a suit on one day. I actually had accepted a sales job as I was trying to grow my company. And I put a suit and tie on. I had this whole business outfit on. And I felt like I looked like a grumpy version of my dad I always saw growing up. You know, my parents always brought their boss home to dinner, if you know what I'm saying. A lot of times as a kid, you know, we are just wanting to connect with our parents. And I grew up in a life where complaining about the boss was more important than being present with the family, or at least it felt like that from a kid's perspective. And so I started my own company, and I had a lot of challenges in the first year. You know, one, no one's going to support it. They shouldn't. And also, I learned that you don't need that. And that's actually kind of like the first lesson you got to go through in business is like, no one is going to want it more than you. If you want to start your own business, you have to care more than everyone else. No one's ever going to want to make your money. They're going to want to make their own money. And even if you love someone, they still want themselves to be safe before you. And so you have to learn that when you start business. So as I began, you know, I didn't really have a service. I didn't have an offer. Just anything someone complained about, I would try to fix, whether I was qualified or not. And very quickly, this led to a feeling of burnout, lack of purpose, and just overall uncertainty of how to even know what to get better at. And so I read a book by Brandon Turner. Many of you guys know, one of the founders of Bigger Pockets. And I really like this idea of real estate as an industry. It seemed like that's where all the wealth was created. You know, as a kid growing up, I didn't really have a good relationship to real estate. You know, I had divorced parents, so I never really loved one home. But then I also know that my parents didn't work with realtors, and I think they were taken advantage of because of that. But we were trained as a kid to think realtors were these bad people who basically do nothing but take your money. And so I had to unlearn a lot of things. Like I had to unlearn a lot of beliefs about being a business owner, understanding who actually moves money in local markets, and that when you are providing as much value with people to literally move where they stay every night and change their shelter, there's a higher responsibility, but there's also a higher paycheck. And it was something I chased. So I tried to pitch this service Go High Level to so many people. And this is back in, you know, mid 2021, probably fall of 2021. And I want to give a shout out to Kit Custer because she's a realtor here in Ohio that I met. And I kept trying to get her to like, you know, buy the service. And she kept saying, man, I don't need that. I don't need that. I need videos. I need someone to edit my videos. I need short form videos. And at the time, Katie was making so much short form videos. She was making personal brand content. She was making content for her reselling business. And I knew that my only Hail Mary was to just throw everything in the pot and just see what happens. So I get Katie to start editing these videos. I'm helping Kit with strategy. And for a short time period, I was like, I'm just going to try to do more of this. So I did a full pivot. In 2021, I was like, let's just try to be a social media video company. Even though I was terrified of video, I was never a videographer, but I did it. And as the year went on, we move into 2022, I start getting some referrals. Business is slowly growing. And in hindsight, it was with the wrong clients. These were people that were very barter focused. They did not want to pay for value. And I thought because I was getting access or referrals that somehow never turned into actual business, I was willing to undervalue myself. And what this did is this blinded me to where the real opportunity was, because a lot of the clients I met in 2023, I knew in 2022, I just never took the time to connect with them, understand what problems they were dealing with, and understand what they might have needed help with on the social media side. And so 2022 was really a year of just guessing, throwing shit at the wall, and learning what systems we really needed and failing a lot. You know, in that year of 2022, Grant, we met some of our best clients that we still work with today, but you know, there were a lot of people that I don't think even understood the service they were buying. And they, you know, had some crazy insecurities that a social media coach isn't going to fix. But I can, you know, definitely refer a good counselor if that's what they're going to continue to do to feel that insecure and feel that scared. And it really made me appreciate the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect client, that every relationship I have is going to be very unique to that person. And that the more I hone my craft and what my offer is, the right people are going to find it and they're going to experience the benefits of it. And it was a huge shift I had to make, right? Because you're coming from a kid who's dead broke in college. Your whole family thinks you're nuts for trying to start this business, and you dropped out and you're a failure, and there's all these societal norms. And then you also have no proof. So you start taking these crazy beliefs and almost like thinking of yourself higher than the person you are today. And what I learned in that whole process is you're really just creating room for the new you to step into yourself. And so 2022 was a huge growth year. I did a lot of counseling. I did this thing called EMDR therapy. And, you know, for any of you hippies out there, I did try psychedelics for the first time. I put on the John Hopkins playlist, famous playlist that a lot of people in this space have encouraged me to listen to. And, you know, I laid there in my living room and I cried a lot. You know, there was a lot of pain that came up and a lot of accepting that this game we're all playing was going to be very short. And it was a really good experience. I had a lot of business owners in my mastermind tell me that a lot of the success in business does not come from the work you do, but it comes from the person you become and who you are on that process. And I got kind of hooked on the idea of actually working on me. Yes, you have to work on your business, but if the founder isn't doing well, the business will never do well. And so 2023 was kind of this year of putting two things together, and it kind of worked. I joined a coaching program. I didn't utilize it as well as I could have. I skipped some calls. I didn't really show up. And to be honest, I was a bad client, but I was doing a lot of the mental health work. I actually began networking for the first time. So a lot of business owners out there in the online space think that if I click this button, this means paying client. But I'd encourage everyone to just go meet people in real life. And you're going to have some shitty clients by doing that. You're going to meet people that seem good that aren't good, but you have to learn that. And for me, I really had to learn that. The networking event that I thought was going to make and blow up my business was just a bunch of frauds. These are people out preaching, you have to be a good father and do these great things. And they weren't that. And a lot of people can see that even through edited content. And so I had to actually take a step back. There were some of these people that we felt the tension and we broke up. And as business owner, especially the agency space, that's the biggest L I can take. And there was a period where I really wanted to quit. At the end of 2023, I really actually wanted to quit. Straight up, guys, this is not I had a bad couple of days. I applied for sales jobs. I looked into being a high ticket closer because I felt like the work to become the better version of Alex wasn't something I could do. And that I had to just stop where I was and go find someone else to provide for me what I wanted. And it seems like God kind of started showing me why this faith thing I was developing is important, because there were just two people that reached out that last November, and they were interested in my service. And instead of just putting myself in the box of, we'll edit your videos, I asked, what do they need help with? Do they need help planning these videos? Do they need someone in person to direct them? Do they need someone to ask them questions? Really give a higher level of service. And man, no one said no to me for a month and a half. And I actually realized that quitting wasn't the right option. Quitting what I was doing and making it better was the right option. And so instead of doing a full pivot, I just swallowed my pride, realized the offer I had wasn't what people needed, and doubled down on a new offer. And I can honestly say, guys, this year was one of the most fun years I've had in business. I really got to meet some awesome people. It's crazy to me to open my timeline and watch edits that we made and actually be entertained by them as well. Not just oh, I made that edit. And I would say it was a great year. The company grew. Katie showed a level of genius that I don't think she's ever been able to show. And I'm just learning more and more that if you have someone that smart to you, just get out of their fucking way. Just move out of the way. Give them a credit card. Give them permission to spend it on the company's dime, and let them do it their best at. Katie's probably built a software on our back end that would have cost $50,000 to $200,000 to build, with 6 to 12 months of development fees. And she did it one night arguing with ChatGPT. And around the middle of this year, I kind of had a moment of knowing, man, I'm never going to be as good as these robots, but man, I'm going to be the best at training the robots. And it was a big shift for me. And in the last 3 to 6 months, there's been this beautiful process of learning that it's really not about what I know anymore. It's about what questions can I ask and what can I implement based off what the robots tell me. And this feels like a culmination of everything in my timeline syncing up. I used to watch a lot of political content, and big guy I watched in college was Andrew Yang. And man, he was screaming from the rooftops, we're arguing about these dumb issues in the news and politics, and no one's talking about the giant wave, which is AI. In our company, we've eliminated about $6,000 in monthly expenses to VAs that does it like that. Couple Zapier clicks, couple automations Katie built. All folders are created for the new month based off one sentence. And the whole world of work is changing. I don't think there's going to be a lot of value in people doing memory-based tasks. I think a lot of labor, we've got maybe 2 to 3 more years, unless it's really art labor, but even then the robots are doing better. And I think humanity's definition of value is changing day by day. I've had so many clients that, transparently they hired me for social media, and I can tell my role is to be their guide to the future, their guide to what's working. And the fun role, I want it. When I learned how powerful AI was, I didn't want to be one of these guys that hid from my clients or hid from the people that support us most and tell them we're not using it. I want them all to use it with. I think at the end of the day, we have to compare this to the biggest automations of our generation. And if we look back at when cars came in, man, if you knew someone was about to buy 300 horses, tell them not to buy the horses. And I see so many business owners right now that are thinking that they need to hire all these people or they need to do all these things, when the reality is they probably just need to talk to the AI more. They probably need to be very honest about what kind of accountability and help they really need. And then they need to just hire people to help them make systems around that and build their own wise network. I recently dropped my biggest investment at once into mentorship with a guy named Ty Lopez, Mr. I'm Here in My Garage. And he really changed my perspective in one 30-minute call. He made me realize that the game is knowing what people need and offering a solution to them for a profit. I think I really got stuck, and this is probably the biggest thing I'm still figuring out, is I got really stuck in my new identity in business as the social media video guy. I knew I wanted to be specific and get better at one thing, but I had so many people just screaming for help, and I didn't listen. I had some of my best clients tell me that, man, I'm not knowing where my task list is. I don't have any administrative help. I'm paying this lady $80,000 to $120,000 a year to be some sort of admin marketing development role, and they don't even know what they do every day. At the end of the day, there's this fear in my head of a lot of people have jobs right now that I could probably automate in 3 sentences. The truth is that's the fastest value I can provide in the world. And I'm going to need to take the role of an educator. I'm going to need to take the role of a guide. And I think the faster I begin robo-copying jobs and showing people that you don't need to be paying a transaction coordinator, you definitely don't need to have a $120,000 a year assistant or marketing manager, and that you probably need to just really have someone that is going to teach you ChatGPT, and then you will hire specialized services from what ChatGPT tells you. It's going to be the future of work. It's going to be much more fractionalized than anyone ever imagined. And the people that are going to make a killing are those that understand humans the most, understand robots the most. And truthfully, people like myself, we're just going to have to become a translator to the two parties. And there is an inherent fear that I will definitely automate myself, but I know that's the only way for me to have the lifestyle I want. I talked a lot about business in this podcast, but the real reason I started the Figuring It Out podcast is because when I started this business, I didn't expect it to work. Like, I was very depressed at the time, and it was kind of just this, hey, I've seen this Gary Vee guy talk about it all the time. Let's try it. Life's already shit anyways, so might as well try something scary. And it started working, and I started working on myself and getting better. And I think the hard part now is figuring out, why am I doing any of this? I really like helping people. I really like connecting people. I've done a lot of counseling work to know that the pain we feel inside, you'll often find solutions in your business life. And for me, I grew up in a lot of unconnected relationships, a lot of people that couldn't communicate well. And it's very fun for me to profit off knowing that there are people with amazing businesses out there, and there are people who don't know about them. And I just like merging the two. But I know now, with how powerful AI is going to get, labor hours are going to go down for everyone. Like, there's going to be no one's painting their house anymore. The robot will mow your lawn. You're probably not even going to have to think for yourself in the next 2 to 3 years. And the people that own the thinking systems are going to own everything. But when I wonder about a world where I have all these tasks automated, I wonder how I'm going to spend my day. I wonder how I'm going to tell myself I worked hard. I wonder how I'm going to feel that little checkbox feeling I want to feel at the end of every day, to feel like this game is worth it. Big part of that for me was knowing that I needed a partner to do it with. I proposed to Katie. That was something that I've always said I was going to do. I always said I wanted a wife one day, but I had divorced parents, and that trauma was just too much for me to put her first. But you get to a certain point in life and you realize, like, days like today, I'm like, man, I'm 27 years old. We've all heard of the 27 Club. Like, some of my favorite musicians, this was the last year they had. And it's also the time of year where, we all have lost loved ones. I've talked a little bit in my recent episodes about my buddy Tristan, who we worked our first 2 jobs together. We worked together at Panera, and we worked together at the Westfield Country Club. He took his own life, and it's actually going to be it was 7 years, 5 days ago. One of the biggest lessons that his death taught me is you have to live for yourself. You have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to want to leave the game. Like, you're not going to want to be here. And the last time I spoke to him was probably 10 days before he left. I was leaving Anytime Fitness, see him walk in, and I'm like, Tristan, what's going on here, dude? Like, you're lifting at 10 p.m. And he's like, yeah, man, like, I just got off work. And I was at a time where I didn't want to go home either. I didn't really like the environment my parents were in, and I didn't really want to argue with them. And so I went in my car and just came back in. Told me he had this massive opportunity to work with a really big governor in the state of Ohio. Family and girlfriend weren't the most supportive at the time. And he was kind of in this bind of, like, do I do what I want for my life, or do I make these people happy to me? He had so many things weighing on him, but I just remember us having this heart to heart about, like, man, we have to do the thing we want to do. And a week later, he was gone. I didn't answer that text message either. That's another thing I haven't shared on the podcast. 2 days before he left, he hit me up, asked, am I going to come through tonight? Are we going to hang out? And I didn't answer. That same night that he took his own life, I saw his last post on social media. And Katie, my now fiance, was one of our first nights hanging out together. And I was like, oh, it's weird. Tristan posted a weird post, and I ignored it. I did a lot of counseling to realize that we're always going to have these regrets. We're always going to have that person we wish we responded to. I wanted to make this podcast in January, and it's now December, and I'm finally making it just because I saw the milestone of my birthday and went, holy shit, I've got to film this. But I want everyone to know out there that, it doesn't take these scary, crazy life moments to have the same knowledge I had, which is clock's ticking for everyone. I'm just so grateful that I started this podcast. I had no fucking clue anyone would even watch it. I had no idea I was going to be able to get guests on the show. I had no idea that I was going to actually like a studio, not like a studio, have to build out a team to do all of these things. And it's been amazing, but I didn't know that any of these benefits would happen. I just jumped in. And so what I'm trying to figure out now is, what do I want to do with these extra hours? Why am I building this company? I think over the next year, I'm going to start bringing some guests on that aren't all business. I'm going to bring some mental health professionals on. I might just bring some people on that I know are living a life I want to live and just ask them how they did it. Because all business owners at the end of the day are trying to make money, but we're really trying to just save time. That's the asset at the end of this, right? Money's just our converter. I really want to have a family. I want to take Chewy on a lot more vacations. I think I do want a second dog so he can have a buddy. I'm excited to start documenting that process, right? I think it's okay to make a little bit of change, have a business, not have a job, but my goal in 2025 is to make like a disgusting amount of money, like enough that family gets uncomfortable if I were to tell them at like family events. I don't want to use it in a dumb way. I want to use it in a way that makes my life better and the people I care about's lives better. I know the only way I'm going to do that is to be this liaison for so many of my existing clients and new business owners I'm going to meet. I'm going to be able to be this guy who walks people from the past into the future. And I'm going to learn a lot about myself, but also about humanity in the process. I'm really grateful for anyone that's watched even 5 minutes of an episode, man. Like, holy shit. If you make a podcast, no one in your family is going to watch it. And if they do, their feedback's going to be terrible. But there's so many people that have reached out to me that do watch it. And guys, I make this for you. I didn't want to make a podcast tonight. It's my birthday. I've got dinner in an hour and I'm still in my gym clothes. But I made this podcast because I believe I'm not the only one thinking and feeling these things. I believe there's an older version of Alex that screamed down at me tonight and said, hey, buddy, turn the camera on. You need to talk about where you're at because you're going to miss it. So overall, I just want to give a thank you to you guys. Thank you to everyone that's watched. Thank you. If you subscribed, you're a real one. I know there's like 100 some of you. I did this little segment tonight and I think it should be fun because I want to make this recurring. But I asked a few people in my life, drop me an audio message. I'm going to read some of them to you. One is from my sister. One is from a client and business friend of mine. I want to get one personal life. I want to get one business one. So we're going to start with my sister.
Alex, it's your sister. When we were younger, I had a goldfish named Nemo that you won for me at a fair. I think it was the Medina County Fair. He lived for 6 whole years. My question for you is, did you all replace Nemo multiple times, or was that the same fish for all 6 years?
All right, listen, I don't want to be a snitch, but Maria, we got to be honest. So I do remember winning my sister this fish, but we had divorced parents and Maria and I were Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one, Tuesday, Thursday weekend at the other. And I never bought a second fish, but I'll just say that it was kind of convenient that the fish was always healthy every time we switched weekends from dad's house to mom's house. So Maria, that's a question you got to redirect to mom. I'm not going to take that one. All right, now we got a business message. So this is from a guy named Lindsay Conrad. He owns a mortgage company. He has a couple other businesses raising private capital, as well as some food brands. We're working on a lot of this AI stuff I'm talking about live. He's kind of someone that we're building out systems with it for. So I'm going to read his question now.
Alex, do you think that with the change of most companies adapting AI and trying to use AI, do you think the larger companies are going to get stuck in red tape and going in circles and not able to use it effectively, whereas the smaller companies will be able to be more nimble and able to use it? What do you think the long-term play is for companies trying to implement these AI tools that are changing the world?
All right. So I think there's actually a chance for both to win. I think if you're a giant company like Box, that doesn't matter in industry. If you're a huge company, you have money, assuming. And the quickest thing a big company can do is buy AI systems and data at scale, or it can train and program these systems at scale. The issue is you have way more data points and parameters that are going to be used. They're going to have more people in the system. You're going to have more issues. And if there are certain regulations of company safety, that can get in the way of innovation. And I think that's the biggest risk big companies have. Is it takes one small company figuring out one prompt that can wipe out an entire department of yours, and you're so big you won't know until it's too late. I think for the small guy, they have to invest all their capital in figuring it out. No pun intended with the podcast, but they need to put all of their money into knowing what can we do that the big companies can't. And transparently, guys, start there with ChatGPT. If you're a small company, say who your Goliath is and tell ChatGPT you're David and let it write the story for you. I'm not exaggerating. Give it that exact prompt. And it will give you an understanding of what you need. And then tell the ChatGPT to ask you questions so that it can better understand your business and what the actual threats are. I really think at the end of the day, the game is going to be implement, test, pivot. And I think the people who work on that muscle the fastest are going to be fine. I think no matter what happens, we're going to need people who know it. And, at the end of the day, when horses became cars, no one knew there would be companies that detail cars. No one would know that there are entire mechanic industries that are just modifying cars. There were so many jobs created that no one knew existed. So I think when we all get scared and we worry about AI, let's just focus on the fact that there are going to be new jobs that are going to be going to be hobbies and you're going to get paid for them. Let's call it as it is. There's going to be people that are just paid to listen to music and give their feedback on it. And their feedback is going to be amazing compared to what we have today. Lindsay, Maria, I appreciate those questions. And guys, I do have to get ready for dinner. Katie booked us Marble Room Steakhouse tonight in Cleveland, which I've never been to, but everyone has told me great things. So if you made it this far, you're one of the early ones. I'm going to keep making this show. I don't care if 5 people show up every time. I will keep sticking with it because I know Alex, who's in his old age, sitting on the beach one day, is going to be great while I film this. So Alex, I guess this one's for you.